You stand up when the bride walks into the room. Nobody told you to. Your legs just do it. You feel your throat tighten during a funeral chant you don't even understand the words to. Your heart rate slows when a group starts clapping in rhythm together. None of this is politeness. None of this is culture, at least not in the way you think. The real reason is far stranger. Your body is still obeying rules written by rituals that are older than language itself. Think about the last time you were in a crowd that moved as one. A concert, a stadium, a prayer hall. Did you notice your own heartbeat change? Most people don't, but researchers have. And what they found rewrites almost everything you assumed about tradition. Start with fire. For most of human history, sitting around a fire at night wasn't a choice. It was survival. But something strange happened around those flames that had nothing to do with warmth. Anthropologist Dimitris Xygalatas has spent years studying ritual behavior across cultures, from Spanish firewalking ceremonies to Mauritian religious festivals. He and his team wired people up with heart monitors during a real firewalking ritual in San Pedro Manrique, Spain. What they found was not just that the walkers' hearts synchronized with each other. The hearts of spectators who merely watched, who felt emotionally connected to the walker, synchronized too. Strangers in a crowd, breathing the same rhythm, without ever touching. Your ancestors didn't need a reason for this. Their bodies simply did it. And the ones whose bodies synchronized easily with the group survived more often than the ones who didn't. Why would evolution reward something so strange? Because a synchronized group moves like one organism. It reacts faster. It shares fear faster. A predator approaching a scattered group of humans might pick off one at a time. A predator approaching a synchronized group faces something closer to a single, larger animal, all reacting together, all defending together. Ritual was never decoration. Ritual was a survival algorithm, running quietly in your nervous system long before anyone wrote it down as tradition. This is where it gets stranger. Every culture on Earth, separated by oceans, mountains, and thousands of years with no contact, independently invented rhythmic ritual. Drumming, chanting, clapping, swaying. Not one of these cultures copied another. They couldn't have. And yet the pattern repeats everywhere, like a rule the human body already knew before anyone taught it. Oxford anthropologist Harvey Whitehouse has spent decades studying what he calls identity fusion, the psychological state where a person stops feeling like an individual in a group and starts feeling like part of a single shared self. Whitehouse found that the more painful, intense, or emotionally overwhelming a ritual is, the more powerfully it fuses people together. This is why initiation rites across so many unconnected cultures involve discomfort. Cold water, fasting, physical endurance. It isn't cruelty. It's a biological shortcut to trust. A group that has suffered together will defend each other without hesitation, because their nervous systems have quite literally learned to treat each other as extensions of one body. You still feel this today, even without realizing it. Think about why military units, sports teams, and even certain workplaces push people through shared hardship as a bonding exercise. Nobody sat down and consciously derived this from evolutionary theory. It simply feels right. It feels right because it is running the exact same ancient circuitry your ancestors used to keep the group alive. But rituals didn't only bind the living. They also shaped how your ancestors handled loss. Grief is not simply an emotion. It is one of the oldest problems evolution had to solve. A group that could not process the death of a member, that fell apart every time someone died, would not survive long. So rituals stepped in. Funerals, mourning periods, specific chants, specific silences, specific physical acts like covering the face or lowering the voice. French sociologist Émile Durkheim, writing more than a century ago, described what he called collective effervescence, the surge of shared emotional energy that happens when a group performs an intense ritual together. Durkheim argued that funerals were never really about the dead. They were about stabilizing the living. The ritual gave grief a shape, a beginning and an end, so the group could return to functioning instead of dissolving into chaos. You have felt a small piece of this yourself. Notice how a funeral, even for someone you barely knew, still makes your chest feel heavy the moment the room goes quiet. Your body is not confused. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. It is syncing you to the emotional state of the group, because for nearly all of human history, staying emotionally in sync with your group was the difference between belonging and being left behind. Here is the twist most people never expect. You might assume that as humans became more modern, more logical, more scientific, these ancient instincts would fade. They haven't. If anything, your modern brain manufactures new rituals to replace the ones it lost. Think about your morning routine. The exact order you brush your teeth, the specific mug you use for coffee, the playlist you listen to before a big meeting. None of these are efficient. None of them are strictly necessary. And yet, disrupting them feels wrong, almost unsettling, in a way that has nothing to do with logic. Psychologists studying ritual behavior, including work building on Zygalatas' research into what is sometimes called the ritual effect, have found that performing a fixed sequence of actions, even a meaningless one, measurably lowers anxiety and increases a person's sense of control. Athletes tap their bat 3 times. Students touch the same pen before an exam. None of this changes the outcome, but it changes the nervous system. Ritual, even stripped of religion, even stripped of meaning, still calms the same ancient machinery inside you that once needed fire, drums, and a synchronized tribe to feel safe. This is why removing ritual entirely, even from a secular life, tends to backfire. Humans who describe themselves as having no rituals at all, no routines, no repeated meaningful acts, report higher rates of anxiety in multiple studies on habit and well-being. Your brain did not evolve to operate on pure logic alone. It evolved to feel safe inside repeated, predictable, shared patterns. Strip those away, and the oldest part of your brain starts sounding an alarm it cannot fully explain in words. So think again about standing up when the bride enters the room. It feels automatic because it is automatic. It is the same circuitry that once made your ancestors rise together at the sight of danger, or bow together in shared vulnerability, or synchronize their breathing around a fire that kept every predator at bay. You are not performing an empty social script. You are running software that has kept humans alive for hundreds of thousands of years, wrapped now in a tuxedo and a wedding march instead of firelight and drums. Modern life likes to pretend it has outgrown ritual. It hasn't. It has only changed its costume. The applause at a concert, the chant at a stadium, the moment of silence before a meeting starts, the candle lit at a memorial, these are not leftover superstitions. They are the same ancient survival tool your body has always trusted, quietly steering you long after you stopped noticing it was there. Next time your chest tightens during a hymn you don't believe in, or your feet fall into step with a marching crowd, don't brush it off as habit. Notice it for what it actually is. It is hundreds of thousands of years of human survival, still running quietly inside you, still keeping you tethered to the group, still convinced, deep in your oldest instincts, that this is how a body stays alive. You don't stand up for the bride because you were taught to. You stand up because somewhere in you, a much older self already knows what happens to the ones who don't rise together.